Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Welcome to our brand new podcast, SLTea Time.
SLTea Time.
SLTea Time.
We are a group of speech and language therapists
and students
from Black and diverse ethnic backgrounds.
The aim of this platform is to create space and discussion around race, ethnicity, and lived experiences
of speech and language therapists in the workplace and in university.
We hope to engage with lots of guest speakers in our series who will offer their own unique perspective on the discourse in the episodes.
There are so many amazing things about our profession that we see every day.
But it's also important to talk about the obstacles,
issues and experiences amongst minority groups
in order to move towards an inclusive profession.
For not only our workforce, but the communities we work in.
This podcast is for any and every SLT
to listen in,
engage with and learn from.
Today we're just going to be introducing ourselves so you can get to know us and kind of briefly explain why we're involved in the podcast and what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks. So cringe. Hi, my name is Ilya. I'm a British Muslim speech and language therapist with Yemeni, Pakistani and Indonesian heritage. I graduated from the master's program at City University last year, big up my city girls, and then I spent some time working as a speech therapist in Cambodia. I returned in January and have since been working in London for a private organisation providing neuro-rehabilitation for adults in the community. My interest in speech therapy came from a linguistically rich and culturally dynamic upbringing. The more I learnt about how necessary speech therapy can be, the more I questioned why no one in my community had any idea what it was and how to access these services. More questions came as I continued to work and gain experience in the field. Too often I witnessed really important conversations just being brushed under the carpet and lots of microaggressions happening everywhere that I worked. Not only to me as a worker, as a speech therapist, but also to the families that were under our services. I'm personally passionate about instigating real change at a grassroots community outreach level and also in furthering evidence-based research that directly tackles inequalities that people of colour face in the SLT world as workers but also service users. The main topics I'll be hosting will be around community outreach, how to apply conventional theories and intervention frameworks into cultural narratives, and how we can be promoting the use of diverse resources in our workplaces. I'm really excited to set up this platform for discussions that the speech therapy world have been running away from for far too long. The response has been overwhelming already, and I really hope that people will continue to engage with us and benefit a lot from it. I'm really excited to work alongside this amazing team. See you there!
I'm going to try and be less animated this time, but I find it hard. My name is Tyra Chowdhury. I am of Bangladeshi heritage, born and brought up in the West Midlands. I studied speech and language therapy at Birmingham City University, and I'm a few weeks away from completing the course and graduating. I'm soon to start my first Band 5 job in paediatrics, and I cannot wait to be an NQP. 3 years of studying, I'm raring to go. Growing up, I always knew I wanted to go into a healthcare profession, originally thinking medicine was the path for me, as many people from working class ethnically diverse communities probably will relate to. We are always groomed for medicine by family members, understandably. But I was exposed to speech and language therapy by a relative, and with some research as well as shadowing opportunities, I realised that speech and language therapy suited me and my personal interests in a really holistic way. So for example, I had an interest in science, like linguistics, psychology, and it all just got together, whilst also encouraging creativity at work, and that's really important to me. Throughout my time at BCU, I began exploring the wider elements of speech and language therapy beyond the course curriculum and realised I had questions that are yet to be answered from a research perspective, especially around service delivery to ethnic minority communities. I became aware of the lack of diversity on my course quite early on and found myself to be often the only one to ask questions around bilingualism, cultural competency, and the obstacles Black and ethnically diverse SLTs may experience. So I knew I wanted to become involved in projects outside of the university to ensure these conversations become an integral part of SLT. This investment I have in the profession is what has made me want to be part of this podcast. I want to acknowledge and validate the experiences of students like me who may listen in, and I want to let them know that there's so much for this profession to offer them and that they belong and are hugely valued. I imagine this podcast to not be the only platform to be created by Black and ethnically diverse SLTs. I hope it encourages encourages anyone listening to engage with us, as well as inspiring them to create a space for themselves, to have these important discussions that we need to ensure that the profession as a whole moves towards an anti-racist environment for everyone involved.
I need to stop looking at everyone because I'm just getting distracted by all your beautiful faces. It's just a bit much. Hi everyone, my name's Alma. I'm a black woman and an SLTea student. I'm born and raised in London and I'm of Nigerian heritage. I'm currently studying at City University and I'm about to finish and go on to start a Band 5 paediatric job in East London. I go into speech and language therapy through, I just always wanted to help people. I used to work in a school with children with cerebral palsy and I was just always in awe of the work that speech and language therapists did in helping transform the children's lives, and I wanted to do the same. I've always wanted to work in a place where I could help people and work for a profession that works for others. I'm very interested in diversity because as a black woman it is part of every element of my life. The fact that I am a minority, I can never escape that, and especially on a course where you're only one of 5 black people out of 120 people, that's definitely had an impact on my time on the course. I'm really interested in policies and research as well, and how we can guide the profession into a way that's more diverse and equal and equitable for service users and also speech and language therapists as well.
But I'm going to just wing it and hope.
I love a natural
Hope
wing.
for the best. Hi guys, I'm Ange. I'm a student of speech and language therapy on the UCL Masters course. I was born and bred in London with Indian background. I've always been interested in supporting communication in all individuals, and I've just always had a passion for just fueling that growth of communication, and whether it be in children and adults, all aspects of communication is where my heart lies. I feel like everyone deserves to have a voice. Everyone is born to communicate, and regardless of if communication is in form of voice or in form of like sign language or any aspect of communication, everyone deserves to be heard. And that is where my passion lies. And with diversity, going onto the course, even on going to my interview, counting how many like minority ethnic students there were, I was just baffled at how lack of diverse the course was. I didn't even understand how the profession itself was so lacking diversity. It was so confusing to me. Since after attending my first year of the course, I felt that I was really passionate about doing something about it. So myself and another student were like working with the university to try and make things happen. But I think it's just when you're in a university standpoint, you see how your leaders and like your lecturers are, and they just don't look like you or look like anyone that you've grown up with or even look like anyone that you're supporting. So I think it's so important to have this conversation and make it have real impact. And yeah, so thanks.
Everything, like, I'm just questioning my whole life right now. Hello, I'm Marion. I'm Algerian. I was actually born in Algeria and moved to the UK with my parents and my elder sister when I was 4 years old, who are essentially asylum seekers. I currently work within a mainstream team in paediatrics. I studied speech and language therapy at Birmingham City University and graduated in 2017. Before that, I studied biology at Queen Mary University in London. Starting speech and language therapy at uni was really interesting, especially coming from a university in East London, where it was very diverse. So it's interesting to see the difference in the cohort then. The reason I decided to study speech and language therapy was because I was always interested in working in a field that's to do with healthcare. I did consider medicine or dentistry, but I am a fainter, so I thought that's probably not a good idea. So the reason I've joined this podcast is I'd like to share experiences, and I would really love to give people a platform and give speech and language therapists from diverse backgrounds a voice in the SLT field. My goal and aim for this is I want speech and language therapy therapists and students to be able to go into work or placement without fear of how others might react to them or what they might face when they're in placement or at work. So coming from a country that was affected by war, in terms of colonization and civil war, I have a keen interest on how trauma affects both our families and the children that we work with, and how that might impact with their engagement in therapy and outcomes in therapy as well. So I'm always looking at how to engage families instead of sort of taking what looks like their disengagement in the first instance, essentially. So looking deeper in terms of why are they not engaging in therapy, what can I as a therapist do different to help them with that. Thank you for listening.
I mean, it is actually so much pressure. Hi, my name is Lika. I'm a Somali speech and language therapist. I currently work in special primary and secondary schools. So after finishing my psychology degree, I went and worked in a primary school as an LSA with students with Down syndrome and selective mutism and verbal dyspraxia, and it was very eye-opening, and I'd never heard of speech and language therapy before. It really strikes me that it's like a hidden field for like one demographic. So I went to research, and the speech and language therapist let me come and watch her sessions. I think up until then I probably thought I'd end up being a teacher because I wanted to work with kids, and that was the only field that I was aware of. On the first day of the course, I noticed the imbalance in the demographics of the course, just how little there were only 4 other black women, and that was really striking to me because from my undergrad, also in London, was very diverse. So I initially, with anyone who was from a minority group, you instantly formed some sort of bond, and that was quite nice. But I think that was when I realised that it wasn't mentioned at all throughout the course about diversity being an issue in the field. The only health statistics or any time that diversity was mentioned was around how we're predisposed to this disease and we're predisposed to that disease, and we're more likely to be impacted by this and that, and all the health disparities that we are faced with. Once I graduated, I went on to almost immediately doing some outreach work, and I'm very keen to raise the profile of speech and language therapy as a career option for Somali students and anyone from diverse backgrounds, and just sort of increasing the awareness of the service and the existence of speech and language therapy. Because whenever I go to any kind of career event, I met with people that are like, never heard of speech and language therapy, I would love to study, and tell me more about it, give me your contact details, and I love that. And the second part, which is always really heartwarming, is when parents and family members will come with an anecdote about this my cousin's child has this, and and they do you think they need a referral, and all this confusion around. And I like that they confide in me and that I'm able to help them, but it also gives me the sense that we're not reaching a lot of different groups, and I think it's definitely got something to do with the diversity issue in the field. It's something I'm really keen about and I'm really interested in discussing, and I think talking to other people who've had similar experiences around any difficulties on placement and during the course, and also now in the workplace, I'm really interested to see where all the conversations go.
Okay, bear with me, guys. This might take about an hour. Hi everyone, I'm Sahar. I am a paediatric speech and language therapist, community based. My parents are from Afghanistan originally, and they came to London as refugees. I grew up in London but have moved around quite a lot for studies or jobs. I studied psychology as an undergrad, then was a teacher for a little bit, and then went to study on the SLTea course at Sheffield. I found the career when I was teaching at hospitals, and I was shadowing a few therapists who were supporting children who had brain injuries, and I completely thought I can see myself doing this, and I was really determined to work towards it. To be honest, I became really aware of the lack of diversity really early in my career, and I think it was the day that I sat in the application, like the interview room at Sheffield. I was like looking around like, oh God, I feel quite I feel like the only one, like the only ethnic minority here. So yeah, I would really love to see an open dialogue, more awareness, and generally more diversity in the profession. And I would love to imagine like a student or a therapist who might be able to come and listen to this podcast and feel a bit more heard, and yeah, just an open conversation really.
And that's the SLT for today. Bye.
Bye.